What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the AM, guys. Welcome back to 5 Minute Rants. I'm your host, Michael Abernathy, and welcome back to the show predicated on the journey of life and business. What's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. Hope life is treating you good. Honestly, it's treating me better than I deserve. So, right now, I want to talk about something. Before I even jump into today's topic, I actually want to talk about pattern recognition. One of the things that I do a lot is what I would call pattern recognition. In other words, I see cycles, I see patterns in business, in my life, and how I act and how others act. And then I just talk about it because people are pretty universal. We all tend to do the same things. The circumstances may be different, but we all seem to struggle with very similar things. And again, this is just a generalization. There are specifics for everybody. But to really think about that, and so as I talk about a lot of stuff, it's really like looking at like, oh, this is a pattern. This is a pattern in my life. These are tendencies. I may do this more or less than somebody else, but normally I still do it. So, and that leads me into what I want to talk about today is that normally when something is more difficult to look at or requires more work, the less that we actually look at what it is. So for instance, if I'm doing monies for my household and I'm looking at my bank account and I'm looking at all my spending and I got to pull up my credit card report. I got to pull up my debit card report. I got to go look at my cash. I've got to look at my bank account. I got to look at all this stuff. And I have like 5 or 6 different things open. It takes a lot of work to open every single one of those things just to be able to look at my money and what I'm doing with it. And because it takes a lot more work, I am more likely to not look at it because the things that require more work require more discipline, require more willpower and more effort. And again, going back to that pattern recognition, people, including me, really like the path of least resistance. Okay. The easier things are to do, the more likely we are to do them, ironically. And that goes into marketing. And I can talk about this later, but like the more questions and the more qualification steps you have up front for a lead, the more qualified the lead is going to become, but the less amount of leads you're going to get. And we can talk about that later, but it's just that pattern over and over. And so here's the thing. If something is difficult to look at, the best thing to do about it is to actually make it simplified so that you can see it better or that you can interact with it easier, and then you'll be able to fix your problems. And here's the other thing. I'm saying fix problems, and I've skipped this part, so my apologies. Most of the things that we do not look at cause us problems. There are unintended consequences associated with the things that we are not looking at. And so if I'm not looking at an area of my life, if I'm not looking at one of the 5 boxes of work, if I'm not looking at one of the 4 pillars of life, if I'm not covering any of those things, there's going to be unintended consequences in my life from that. Right? If I'm not watching my money, where I'm spending it, where it's going to go, and I'm just haphazardly doing whatever I need to do, well, guess what? I'm going to find myself in debt. I didn't intend to go in debt. That's not like, hey, I'm not like just sitting there going, I mean, I did intend to go to debt because that's what I'm intending to do is not pay attention. But what I'm saying is I'm not just actively thinking like my life's goal is to get into debt. Nope. But my actions say that I intended to do that because I wasn't looking at it. And if I can make the finances in my personal life easier to look at, if I can make the finances in my business life easier, or the marketing, or the bench utilization, or the automation, whatever it is, if I can make it easier to look at, it is much more likely that I'm going to be able to build and grow from there. And here's the first step about building. If you don't have sight, you're not going to be able to build it. And most of us go down to a floor level and we look at all the nuts and bolts, and we really need to come back and get on paper to actually understand what we're trying to build and actually craft out the image or the vision, like sketch the table out we're about to build from woodworking, or sketch the house out and then go blueprint it out and then build from there. And we don't like to do that for whatever reason. When it becomes really hard to look at, we tend to avoid it. And that's what causes problems. And so most likely, if you're experiencing problems in your company or your business or your personal life, it's normally something you're not looking at. And step 1 to solving that problem is to go, what am I not looking at? And then find it and then stare at that sucker. And it's going to be painful. It's really going to be painful, but it's going to be one of the best things you've ever done to solve those problems. Well, guys, I'm out of time and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.